Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to October's um, Tackling Poverty and Social Care and Tackling Poverty Committee, STC. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Apologies for absence from Councillor Jess Pritchard and also from Julie Davis, Head of Child and Family Services.
Thank you, Alison. Okay, second item on the agenda is disclosure of personal and prejudicial interests. Don't think we'll have any of those. Third item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting, which were held in September. So somebody happy to move those?
Councillor Jeffrey, move those.
Okay, thanks, Alan. And Councillor Walton will second. Thanks, Les. Okay, so we're on to the first item proper today, which is item 4, which is internal residential care provision model of delivery. And as Alison mentioned before we started recording, I think Councillor Gibbard, the cabinet member for social care, is going to start us off, and then Amy and Kathy will come in thereafter. So Louise, do you want to come in?
Thanks, Kerry. Yeah, just so basically the purpose of bringing the report here today is to kind of set out the current situation in terms of our offer in our residential care provision, and then just to have a look at see what the committee's thoughts are around where we are at the moment and those priorities that are there in the report. So basically speaking, we made the decision in the previous review that our focus in terms of residential care provision is around complex care, around reablement and providing respite. Clearly, since that decision was made, COVID came along and changed the way that we were operating, and we brought in the provision for step up and step down beds, and then also looking at emergency and short-term placements and for assessments and things to take place. Following the pandemic, we have now gone back to providing that respite and those long-term placements. So it's kind of looking at how we how we fit everything together now going forward. I'm sure everyone would agree all our homes provide an excellent level of care with excellent person-centered outcomes. And I know, as I said, you will see in section, sorry, I got the wrong bit of the report open, 4.2 of the report, those are our priorities now moving forward. So it would be really helpful to have the committee's input on that. I'll hand over to Amy and Kathy, who will probably pick up some more points that they'd like to flag.
Yeah, thank you. As mentioned, we have given you a copy or linked in with a copy of the original commissioning review back in 2018. So that is in there just for information. We're not necessarily revisiting that, but it highlighted to us as well as a team that despite the pandemic, despite all the things we've gone through the last few years, we actually have held true to those original sort of views and visions of what we were going to focus on, albeit sort of responding as much as we can to the pressures. We've given you the details, particularly the appendices I wanted to highlight about the use of beds per home. So you'll see that each of our homes are older people's care homes. These are, which this is focused on, what we use them. So how many beds are used for the long-term complex, how many beds are used for respite, which is, we know, and we've spoken to committee before about how important it is to support carers as well. And we know how key the use of our respite beds are. And particularly that function around those step-up beds. So when people are in the community, we want to help maintain people stay at home for longer. And if that requires a short-term break in an internal residential care bed, perhaps to assess people's needs as they are at the moment, and also to delay people or prevent people going into hospital, is why we see that a really key function of our internal beds as well. So just highlighting those functions. There are in the appendices as well. So we tell you Appendix B is the usage of beds. Appendix C is some comments from service users, and we just thought it would be just for you to see the experience people are having. Particularly we highlighted from T1 Arloith Westfield unit, which has been a new initiative in the last year, which is another use of step down beds. So we're using beds when people come out of hospital to help resettle people with complex needs into their longer term care. Just to identify what longer term care people need. And we've had some really good results in terms of that approach for use of our beds. We've got some case studies from individuals. We won't necessarily go through them, but if you do have any questions or comments from those, but it gives you an example of people who might have used our been in one of our residential homes for reablement post-hospital, so been with us for 6 weeks, for example, and then gone home and no care. This could be people who've come to us, or family comments from families who've come to us and ended up in the long-term complex care beds as well. So there's some examples there. And then finally, I just wanted to point out as Councillor Gibbard said, and we're really proud of our homes. We think it's excellent level of care that people are provided, but we're pleased to share with you as well all the highlight reports from CIW, from the Care Inspectorate Wales. They don't tell us they're coming. They come and visit us. They see us. They inspect us as they find us, and we're really pleased to share that they have some positive words to say as well. I think finally, in terms of the report, as Councillor Gibbard said, our priorities as well. So 4.2, we do want to just check you're happy with those as well. I won't read them through, but those priorities there in terms of the use of our beds, we want to maintain the approach we've taken so far. We want to ensure that our staffing levels are appropriate to meet these high levels of need. So we're not dealing with standard residential. I think if people want standard residential, we've got a good supply and a good market in Swansea with our private sector partners as well. So we're not in that space in terms of our internal beds. And we want to ensure as well, one of our other priorities is around our capital programme to make sure that we have good sites that are fit for purpose. Particularly some of this is around specialist physical surroundings to support with dementia care, particularly looking at kind of the colours we're using, the textures we're using, we're taking some good advice on this, and the approach the teams are taking to make sure our environment is good, particularly our outside environment as well, to make the most of. We've got some really lovely settings. And then also we know in the future we're just going to keep refining our performance information so we can feed that in to our reports for you as well, so you can see those as committees. I think that's what, and Kathy and I are here for any questions if you would like to ask us anything.
Okay, thanks, Amy, and thanks, Councillor Gibbard. Any comments? Anybody like to ask anything? I've got Councillor Wharton.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Amy and Louise and Kath. It's a comment and it's a positive one. We got the Appendix D today, and I'm really pleased to see it because it was the comments made by users, and it makes me feel so reassured that, considering the difficulties you must have all had over the last 2 or 3 years, that you're still managing to do as good as you can for our residents. And I was actually quite moved reading those case studies. And if that's an example of what's happening across Swansea, well, at least I can feel assured people here, living here, are in good hands. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Anybody? I think Councillor. What have I got next? Oh, Councillor Jardine. Yvonne? You're on mute, Yvonne.
Sorry, I'm sort of trying to read my laptop at the same time. Okay, so it's a question really, because under the current bed usage, it looks to me as if we envisage a reduction, for example, in dementia care. I'm sorry, is that right, or have I got that wrong? It's in the appendix. It's 0.3.6. It's on page 22.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to there is the previous, that's part of the previous report from 2018, I think, Yvonne. So that's a bit outdated now. If you look on page 46 in Appendix B, that's got the current number of beds that we've got available in each care home. So okay. Those numbers aren't applicable anymore.
Because I did read that one as well. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks, Louise.
That was really accurate.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. Councillor O'Connor?
Hi there, thank you. It was just, how confident are you that you will be able to recruit the right care staff that you need?
It's definitely an uphill struggle. There are a lot of vacancies, not just in Swansea, but across Wales. I think everybody's struggling to recruit staff. I think, I want to put on record my thanks to all the staff in adult services and in our care homes, because they do an amazing job, as you can see from the comments that people have made. But yeah, I know there's a lot of work going on with our employability teams in the hub that we've got in the quadrant. There's lots of events and recruitment on an ongoing basis for that. Lots of adverts going out, videos being done, you name it, we're doing it. So I can't say I'm 100% confident, because unfortunately that's the situation that we're in at the moment. I'm confident we're doing all we can. I don't know if Amy, Kathy, you want to add to that at all?
Yes, it's a very difficult market out there, but again, we're trying to promote what we do and make it an attractive offer as well to people that haven't been in social care, so we can actually expand that market as well as just staff moving around. So it is a challenge, but we are looking at trying to improve information on the services and adverts and recruitment as well as obviously trying to maintain our standards, which again helps with word of mouth. But it is a challenge. But as I think, as Councillor Gibbard said, we're trying to do everything we can to maintain and improve and increase the social care workforce coming into our services.
Okay, thanks, Anne. Go on,
Sorry, Councillor Jeffrey, you would like to ask a question.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you,
Alan.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just for clarification, really. Within I take it the 6 care homes that we're referring to in this document here, and you're talking about residential care. I mean, with the onset of dementia and those with dementia and those with special needs, I mean, is it carers only are we talking about here, or is there a nursing provision within the homes themselves? Thank you, Chair.
Oh yeah. So as a local authority, we can't be registered as a nursing home, but our private sector partners and independent sector partners provide the nursing care. So when we, even when we're providing long-term placements as opposed to short-term for people, it's always under the understanding that if people's needs do deteriorate to the extent, or if their needs are more complex, they need nursing care, then we will support them to find an appropriate nursing placement as well. So we've got, but our commissioning team support the whole sector. So our commissioning team commission beds from nursing and residential beds as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Alan, or are you done?
That's okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Councillor O'Connor.
Hi there. Sorry, just I'm wondering how many people were consulted.
On the original commissioning review, that was before my time, so I will have to hand over to.
I haven't got that figure off the top of my head, but it followed the commissioning review that the council and the process that the council followed. So there was a lot of consultation with people that use the services, families, staff, other colleagues. I don't know if it's in the original report, but it was a full-scale consultation at that time.
Okay, that's great. I mean, I've got, if that's okay, Councillor O'Connor, then I've just got one question, if that's okay, which is just around. It's obviously it's obviously a very large piece of work, and I was just wondering in terms of kind of the measuring and the monitoring of it, kind of what the key milestones are in terms of timescales. What kind of, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say we're in the implementation stage now in terms of delivering this. So we're in full delivery. From the 2018 to now, I suppose we gave you the 2018 as a bit of a context to sort of say this is where a lot changed, and then obviously we went into the pandemic the following year, and or 1920 sort of financial year, and then we had to evolve and respond during the pandemic. So I suppose it's so that's why we've given the whole history. So in terms of where we are now, we are a full implementation stage. So the monitoring and the performance information is why we want to refine that more, just to make sure we're measuring one, the quality information, you know, how people are experiencing this, both the users and their families, and also members of staff, you know, and public, but also we want to look at just some quantitative measures as well, you know, so when people are on short-term breaks, how short a time are they, you know, so the reablement at the moment, we aim to support people up to 42 days, so 6 weeks. But if we can do that shorter, or the amount of people who go home with no care after being on a short-term break, the impact respite's had on carers, you know, this is the kind of next stages of development that we want to have in terms of performance information. So that's the next stages. Is there anything to add, Kathy? I don't know.
No, I think that's correct. We do have quite a lot of information, but it's the pulling it together and analysing it that we're working on at the moment with our performance team, so we can use and understand it better, and obviously learn from what the experience and information we get back.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Thanks very much. I can't see anybody else indicating. Alice, there's nobody else indicated in the room, is there?
No, Chair, there's not.
Okay, thanks very much. So thanks everybody for coming along to do that. And will you need to bring this back to us at all, Amy and Louise, in the future, do you think?
Not really. I mean, if the committee have got further comments or questions, or if there's any, I can't speak, any specific aspect that we'd like to sort of pick up some development of, then yeah, we'll keep in touch. And yeah, you know, as there's no sort of changes planned at the moment, is there, outside of our, you know, usual kind of transformation, etc. But yeah, so thank you for giving us the opportunity to bring it here for awareness today.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thanks very much. We appreciate the time and effort's gone into it. It's obviously really important and a very large piece of work. So good luck. Okay. Moving on to item number 5 then, in terms of the agenda, the Enabling Communities Grant. So that's I believe Anthony and Mark are there. So guys, I don't know who was leading, but if you want to take it on, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll kick us off on this just briefly. So this report that's been brought today is a follow-on report from the initial report that came on the 24th of July. It was about proposing and establishing an Enabling Communities Grant, accessing funding from the Levelling Up pot. Following the committee meeting on the 24th of July, it was recommended that a workshop be held to kind of explore what that might look like in more detail. So the workshop was held on the 4th of October, where we looked at the proposal in more detail. I'll give a brief overview of what that proposal is as well here for members today. So the proposal is building on work that myself in the Tackling Poverty Service and my colleague Mark in the Partnership and Commissioning teams have been involved in over the last year around the development and delivery of the Coast grant. So Coast is creating opportunities across Swansea together. So that was around providing free opportunities and activities for young people and over 50s to get involved with. And then the Swansea Spaces, which was Swansea's warm hubs network established over last winter in response to the cost of living crisis. And the third scheme, the Holiday Food Fund, which ran during the summer school holiday this year in a response to Welsh Government having to withdraw the free school meal holiday payment. So three schemes that we looked at in the workshop in terms of the evidence of need. So in terms of the cost of living crisis, what's the value of these schemes? And that was established along with feedback from delivery partners and communities for those 3 schemes. So the proposal was about pulling together and launching one grant under an Enabling Communities banner that would allow organisations that wish to apply for those grants to apply through one scheme, but would allow them to identify which elements of the scheme that they wanted to apply for. So something that we kind of looked at and reviewed between our two teams over the last year was the number of unique organisations that were accessing these funds to support communities, and those that were applying to more than one of those pots of funding to be able to support their community. So it made a lot of sense based on that to kind of develop this proposal in that way. And where we are right now is that myself and Mark's team are in the process of planning a launch of this grant, which would be the 1st of November for the grant being publicised. So working with colleagues in a communications team as well, and the web team to launch that online application process. And of course, we'll be targeting many of the organisations that we've developed relationships with over the years to support them to access that opportunity, so that we continue to support our communities with free activities, with warm places to go this winter during the ongoing cost of living crisis, and continuing with that that holiday food, which has been so successful this summer. So that's my brief update. I don't know if Mark, there's anything that no, Mark, nothing to add there. So if there's any questions, happy to take them.
That's great. Thanks both. Any comments, questions from the committee around this, Councillor Walton?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Anthony and Mark. I totally support the idea of having a sort of single point of contact, so I've got no issue with that. I have got a slight problem with the wording you've used in 1.3, because I think you've got to be very careful not to assume that because an area is an area of multiple deprivation, which personally, I'm sure I've said this before, I think is one of the worst words going. I hate the word. I know we have to use it because it's the words that are accepted. But to say restore a sense of community, now I'm sure you know this, I'm not telling you anything new. There'll be communities across Swansea who are supposedly multiple deprivation. They will not think they've not got a community in the first place. So I think say restore a sense is not the right phrasing, or local pride or belonging. Yes, you might be really hard up, but doesn't mean to say you haven't got a sense of community and belonging. And there are plenty of people in the ward I represent, Town Hill, who feel that day in, day out. So can we just be a bit more careful in future about the way things are worded? Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Anthony, do you want to respond to that in any way?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. Really welcome that comment, and you're absolutely right. Now, none of that wording is anything that we would be looking to utilise in our communications around this grant, in our description of the grant, or indeed our description of our communities. Absolutely, 100% recognise that we already have many strong communities and very strong partnership with the third sector and community. So yeah, restoring perhaps isn't the right wording at all there. And in terms of targeting, absolutely, it's around a range of whether it's activities through the coast scheme, whether it's holiday food, or whether it's warm spaces. That's something that we look to establish right across Swansea. We recognise that the impacts of the cost of living crisis and poverty can happen to people in any community. And we recognise, of course, that people access activities and opportunities right across Swansea, not necessarily just in the community that they live in. Mark, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Councillor Walton. As a Town Hill boy myself, I completely understand the pride in the community and the spirit there. So yeah, I do agree language is important, and we will need to look at that. So take that point on board. But as Anthony said, this fund is about looking at not only areas of deprivation, but non-geographical areas need as well. So it's looking at that. It's more about strengths-based models, looking at increasing opportunities and aspirations for our communities. So Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Les. Anybody else want to come in? Councillor Baker, do you want to come in?
Yes, please. On the warm hubs, we run a few warm hubs up in Blaenau Maes, up in the Penderry Road, between Penlan down into Blaenau Maes. Plenty of people accessed it. There were other groups then asking, how do they access the grants for the warm hubs or to set up a warm hub? I find it very confusing where to signpost them for these grants. Old age group have asked me in the centre a few times about different grants, which in the end I brought Swansea CVS in to talk to them, which did help. But I didn't know about half these. I knew about the holiday food levelling up grant during that because I was with the young children when we done kicks, and Caroline Harris came up and delivered to us snacks and food for the children, which was much appreciated in an area of deprivation, as they say, which I hate saying that word, but it is an area that is slightly deprived, or shall we say deprived. And these groups, certain groups are trying to set up in the area to improve people's lives, are like left out when it comes to applying for grants. They're not quite sure where to apply, who to go to. I'm the same. On times I'm totally stuck. Erica has the same problem as me, and Terry have. So it's knowing where we can signpost these groups that do need the help, from the elderly to the young people as well. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to come back in, guys?
Thank you, Councillor Baker. You are correct. We do fund SCVS through the third sector compact in order to provide support for volunteer groups in the third sector to have there's a find a funder, that kind of thing. But it is confusing, and it's been even more confusing since 2020, where a lot of our grants have been reactive based on when there's with the pandemic and when there's been funding from Welsh Government release and things like that. We are aware of that, and we are trying to streamline it, which is one of the reasons why we've kind of taken this approach in terms of grouping the different grants together under one band. Hopefully it will make it easier, one, for us to understand as professionals, but if we don't understand the definitions, then as you say, community members aren't going to understand. So it is how we can make these things more streamlined, easier to understand, and what one place to go. But I do agree with you, it is confusing. There's a lot of grants out there, but SCVS on an ongoing basis, SCVS are the best people to help. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Just to say then that, I mean, first of all, thanks for the workshop as well, guys. I know Jane Whitmore's there as well, so thanks to the three of you for putting that on, because I think it was really helpful and useful to see the impact that those three previous grants had on in terms of positivity for people in Swansea. So I think this is a really welcome and beneficial direction of travel for this grant, and some of the things that Mark just said, that just in terms of ease as well, and maybe we need to work on some of the communication as it goes through, but I'm sure that's something that you guys be working on with SCVS and so forth. So just to say thank you very much for doing that. So just to sum up for the rest of the committee, so, and Alison, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think effectively after today, if we're all happy, this will then move forward to being formally moved through the cabinet, I guess. Is that correct?
Anthony's going to answer the question, Chair.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, just hopefully provide a little bit of clarity around the process from here. So we are moving forward with the launch plan and the comms plan. The funding has been approved. So what we would like to do is thank this committee for your support in that process and your suggestions through the previous reports and the workshop.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Excellent. Well, thanks both. And I think it's I'm really pleased that the committee's been involved in this. I think it's a hugely important grant. Can have a lot of impact for small organisations and individuals across Swansea. And it's really pleasing that as a committee we've had this go through and the volunteering strategy in recent times as well. So thanks. Thanks for your help and all of that, guys, and thanks for coming again today. This won't need to come back here in future now, will it? That will be it in terms of our involvement. Mark, do you want to come in?
It doesn't have to. However, if as a committee, people would like to see the impact it has had in the future, we are more than welcome. I know we're more than happy. Sorry, to come back or simply send the report or the numbers in terms of we do try and collect the qualitative and quantitative, so basically the high numbers, the engagement numbers, but also the difference it makes to people's lives, because these funding does really make a huge difference. So again, I'd like to thank the committee as well for supporting this approach, and more than happy to come back or send a report in terms of that. And in terms of communication, obviously we do have a strategy. We will communicate the opportunities as far and as wide at the same time as possible across all our networks and things like that, so everybody gets all the information up to date at the same time as best as we can.
Brilliant, thanks, Mark. Well, I mean, I'm sure I speak for everyone. I think we would welcome for an update maybe some point in the new year in terms of how things are getting on, or later than that. Even I'm sure I would speak for everybody on that front. So thanks guys for everything on your work on that. It's fantastic. Okay, on then to the last item, which is just the work plan. So the next
I missed it. Oh, sorry, I didn't know why my mic was on. Sorry, Kate.
Welcome, Alison. Okay, the next item is just the work plan. So the next meeting is the 4th of December. So on the 4th of December, we'll be looking at when I'm ready and special guardianship orders, SGO. So both of those items are children's services items. So so far this year, we've had a couple of the tackling poverty items. One we've had today, and obviously we had some adult service item today as well. So we had the volunteer strategy go through. We've obviously had the neighbouring communities grant that the guys have just spoken about as well. So I think we're doing some really good work this year. I'm really pleased with how quickly the work that we've been involved with and how quickly things are moving forward and how hard the officers have really worked to meet the timescales. It's been really impressive. So that'll be the next meeting. Unless there's any comments or any questions or any other points from anybody before we close? No. Alison, do you want to say anything before we go? So it can be minuted.
No, Annie, I'm very sorry. I was double booked. I was trying to do both.
No problem. Okay, well, thanks everyone for your attendance. Thanks to the officers and Democratic Services for all their help and legal services. And we'll see you all on the 4th of December.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.